Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Gluestick channel, and through the darkest depths something crept, as vast and cold as the night. Through murk and muck, through the deep it snuck, a horror beyond time, beyond light, beyond sight. Dagon is an Oberth lord, also called the Prince of the Depths or Prince of the Darkened Depths. His realm is the 89th layer of the Abyss and is known as the Shadow Sea, one of the oldest demon lords in existence. Dagon is said to possess vast and forbidden knowledge. Dagon is first mentioned in the first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons sourcebook Monster Manual 2, where it said in passing that he rules a liquid layer dominated by marine dretch, Hezrao, kraken, and horrible fish monsters. When the Oberth broke through into the D&D multiverse, only the strongest of them actually made the crossing as intact individuals, adapting their monstrous alien essence and reforming as intact beings on the other side. The rest of them were swallowed up and regurgitated by the Abyss itself. Who knows what Dagon was back in that foul and defying universe from whence he came, or how long he had existed there. Applying the concept of age to a thing like Dagon is meaningless. You could say that he has watched stars form, live and die and reform into new stars many times. He has watched life crawl out of the water and crawl out onto the land time and time again, and each time he has seen this as some sort of a personal insult and turned his attention toward tempting, luring, or simply forcing those living beings back into the water where he could exact punishing vengeance on them. Those few who see the error of their ways and wish fervently to return to the embrace of the sea, he shows mercy to, in a way, helping them overcome their surface frailties and adapt once more to the waters. Woe betide those mortal creatures that would mock the sea and seek to skim over the surface and steal from her, or those that would scrabble about in her rivers and shores, befouling her with their filth and trash. Dagon is not always a force of destruction, though those on the surface would only ever see this side of him. He is something of a protector of the seas, all the seas, and as such has demonstrated actions in the past that prevented catastrophic events that would have destroyed the world, and the sea along with it, of course. Well, not him exactly, but his minions. For example, Captain Thorister, one of the heroes attempting to stop the Eladrin Malayana from opening the Far Manifold with the Key of Stars, is in fact a direct descendant of Dagon, a demon scion, who this was quite a shock to the witty pirate captain and his macabre sense of humour, but that's another story from Bruce Cordell's Key of Stars. Dagon's physical form, when he is fully manifested, is enormous. It's a mixture of both octopus and fish, a kind of crustacean-y thingy all blended into one. His head is like something hauled up out of the deepest ocean trench, a predatory, horrific, cavernous, moored nightmare with row after row of needle fangs the size of transparent pillars. He sprouts countless slimy, writhing tentacles and is covered in black, rubbery skin that is punctuated with many red, leering, unblinking eyes. Thick and razor-edged fish scales shield his flesh, and he constantly oozes a black ichor that teems with demonic parasite creatures, not exactly the same as any other. He towers well over 40 feet tall, at least, and is considered one of the most fearsome of the demon lords. To contend with this being in a physical confrontation means dealing with ferociously strong tentacles that can latch on with dinner plate-sized barbed suckers and tear flesh into bloody shreds. He can turn a man into a pretzel in a moment. Two of his largest tentacles terminate in splayed tentacle fingers, five fingers, allowing him, making him look a lot like, those look like hands, but the rest of them is only anthropomorphic in such as you could call those fingers. His body doesn't have the normal number of segments, and if he does have organs, they are arranged completely differently. As a demon lord of stupendous power, Dagon can cast any spell, summon any demon, and has the ability to manipulate the ocean itself, so he's tremendously powerful. Dagon's history in the realms lies below the surface of the Sea of Fallen Stars and the waters in the west of Mastica. This undersea domain in the Sea of Fallen Stars is known as Ceros. For over 12 millennia, undersea empires have risen and fallen in these dark waters, and Dagon and his younger Oberth Lord minions lurking below for a long time in the trench of Lopok, and they're known as those who sleep below. They infested the dreams of those who swam in the Sea of Fallen Stars with their nightmares, causing all sorts of problems. Dagon roused occasionally and planned to overcome the pantheon of the Shalarin on the other side of Toril, where they live in the Sea of Coronactus. I'll have basically a whole ecology video on the Shalaran at some point, because they're a race of aquatic humanoids that are very good for player characters actually in an aquatic campaign, with usually dark blue skin, but many other hues exist, with large eyes, long spindly arms, webbed fingers and toes, a regal dorsal fin that travels down from their head like a mohawk to the base of their spine. I should say they were originally from Coronactus until Dagon changed their fate forever. For Dagon to achieve his long-term goal of, he basically wanted to murder these people and therefore cut off their pantheon and then murder the pantheon and steal their powers. He first brought the depths of the Sea of Fallen Stars under the control of his servants and their forces. I say this glibly as if the wars and tales of heroes and tragedy were just incidental, but this was a time of tremendous events under the surface of the ocean, tragic events, evil events, and the land races were almost completely ignorant about it. The next step was made with long forgotten eldritch magic. He restricted the influence of the deities of the Shalaran in the Sea of Coronactus on the west of Mazdaca. This had a devastating effect long term, which will become clearer in a moment. And don't forget that the deities in the Forgotten Realms have got territories. So they can't, the deities of Faerun, for instance, can't operate in Mazdaca fully effectively because there's boundaries that the deities respect between each other's pantheons. The next step was the creation of the 5 wild tides, essentially massive portals that drained millions of tons of water from one ocean into another, which certainly the people on the land did notice, but attributed to the gods rather than a demon lord. The wild tides swept huge numbers of Shalaran into the Sea of Fallen Stars, where his minions could slaughter them. The first wild tide began in minus 1509 Dale reckoning, and an unknown total percentage of the Shalaran populations were swept into the Sea of Fallen Stars, where roughly 70% died under the attacks of Dagon's servants. The rest were barely rescued in the nick of time by enemies of Dagon, such as the Sea Elves, the Tritons, and the Merfolk, who sheltered the bewildered Shalaran once they realized what was going on and that the Shalaran were actually innocent people. To illustrate the nature of Dagon and his contempt for the fitful and forgetful nature of mortal life, he repeated this tactic once every 720 years, mainly because the Shalaran, who could no longer hear their own gods, had turned to the worship of Trishina, a goddess of the dolphins and consort of deep Sashalis. The Shalaran call her Re-Trisha, and they worship her because she looks exactly like them. The Shalaran devoted to her are pacifists who utterly protect the young of any race and save as many lives as they can. This is not the original kind of alignment of their race. They were a bit darker. So once every 720 years, Dagon swept the waters of Coronactus into the Sea of Fallen Stars, and his forces once more went to war with the Merfolk and Shalaran. Now finally, the last tide was in 1371 DR. This time the portal stayed where it was and has remained open indefinitely. The Shalaran of Faerun have kept the portal a secret, fearing that others could use it for their own ends. But another fact was more disturbing for them. Between the 4th and 5th tide, the Shalaran of their homelands near Mazdaca all but abandoned their gods because they had grown silent. Instead of the gods, they began to venerate the demon Dagon, and his cult became the dominant religion of the Sea of Coronactus. The Shalaran of the Sea of Fallen Stars cut off from the travel between their communities, but it was too late, and the cult of Dagon has already taken root among their ranks and continues to grow in secret. Dagon had achieved his long-term goal and waits patiently for his victory to be handed to him by his new vassal race. Although this has been thwarted somewhat by the fact that many of the Shalaran also worship Umberlee, although not exactly enthusiastically about it. I should mention that the Wild Tide Gate is located in Ezrath, the oldest of the original Shalaran duchies in Coronactus, and the most corrupt and evil of the duchies. It seems the original Shalaran pantheon was pretty dark, lots of neutral to evil deities of intrigue, spying, magic, etc. Also, the first Wild Tide Gate and the flood of Shalarans just happened to occur during one of Seros's darkest hours, when both the Merfolk and the Sea Elves were under the sway of insane and evil rulers. So, Dagon and his forces were at work on many different levels, corrupting and attacking from every quarter, manipulating vast events with so many threads of ruin, both small and large scale. It's kind of mind-boggling. He was manipulating governments, organizations, cults, all sorts. What horrendous schemes is he brewing at this moment in the various locations across the realms? How many dimensions is he concurrently active in? What are his long-term goals, and what terrible secrets are kept locked away in the darkest depths? Who can say? What is clear, or should be at this point, is that the oceanic life on the world of Toril is just as complicated and full of strife and adventure as the surface world. But even less is known about it. The abolithic sovereignty, the aquatic dragons, storm giant fortresses, deep ones, Koatoa, Sorhagen, sea elves, merfolk, meros, tritons, Ixigzagzitl, eyes of the deep, and so on. There are fabulous ruins, whole cities beneath the waves, not just those built by the aquatic races. The flooded lands of Var and the lost cities of Miramir, Pyrotar, and Zalpir are ripe for adventures. Dagon doesn't have many cults on the surface, but anyone who has read HP Lovecraft's story about the horror out of Innsmouth will know what a cult of Dagon looks like. The Prince of the Darkened Depths promises a return to the fold of Mother Ocean, the peace and serenity of the limitless blue and green waters, and sings a siren song that draws mortals into his cold embrace, where their bodies are slowly transformed into horrific fish hybrids, until at some point they lose the ability to exist on the land and must live permanently in the water, forgetting most of who or what they once were. The will of Dagon will then urge them to return, those who have not heeded his call from the midnight tides, and these dreadful spawn of Dagon will lurch out of the waves and drag victims to their watery doom. Dagon is responsible for the genesis of a huge variety of aquatic monsters, many of which are as dangerous to creatures on the land as they are to creatures on the sea. When the Queen of Chaos, long ago, called upon the Oberth Lords to aid her in her battle against the Wind Dukes of Aqua, by the way, yes, there will be a video coming on those, Dagon refused her call, and other Oberths that followed his lead and did so as well. Well, the Queen destroyed them for their trouble, but Dagon was powerful enough that the Queen dared not raise her tentacles against him. When the Oberths were defeated, Dagon knew his choice had been the right one. Today, Dagon is held as an oracle and seer among the Tanari demons. They come to his ancient demon fortress with offerings of weapons and sacrifices in return for ancient knowledge of the Abyss and its holdings that predates the rise of the Tanari. This is pretty good for those of them who don't want to deal with the Cybriacs for obvious reasons. Dagon has built a mighty empire in his realm on their offerings, and today is one of the mightiest demons in the demon lords of the Abyss. Dagon's realm lies directly below Demogorgons, and the two have entered a strange sort of alliance, although obviously it's a tenuous one. Dagon is served by all manner of aquatic demons and monsters in his realm, which is known as the Shadow Sea, and despite his Oberonth nature, Myrmzicus demons often pay him tribute, if only to keep him appeased. His favourite minions are the Wastreliths. Once Oberths themselves, these demons remain loyal to Dagon despite the fact they have evolved beyond their ancient roots into their own being. Dagon's presence is felt on the material plane as well. He is sought by powerful and insane spellcasters for the ancient secrets he guards, and he has been known to grant these secrets through spells such as Contact Other Plane. You can treat him as a demi-deity in topics other than ancient history of the Abyss, in which case he is a master. Contact with Dagon is particularly dangerous, though, as intelligence checks made to avoid a decrease in intelligence and charisma. Well, that's older editions of the game, so you could say that he basically drives people insane. He's venerated by other aquatic races. Kraken are known to worship him, as do some chuls, sea hags, and water nagas. The most fanatic of Dagon's material plane worshippers are certain tribes of Koatoa, of course, that dwell in the depths of the open sea and have been never heard of Blibdulpulp. These Koatoa hold their race has existed for eons before the advent of the gods, and that in these ancient times they were the chosen minions of Dagon, somewhat deludedly. Today these numbers are small and dwindling. They've been hunted to near extinction by intolerant Sahuagin who view Dagon as a threat to Sekular's power. Isolated pockets of these ancient katoa have relocated to shallower homes off the coast of isolated stretches of land, where they erect temples and shrines within the tidal reach. In many cases, these katoa have come in contact with coastal communities of surface dwellers, and these unsuspecting coastal villages are quickly converted to Dagon's worship by force or trickery. And in doing so, these katoa hope to rebuild their numbers and strength so they can one day reclaim rulership of the deep. Clerics of Dagon have access to the domains of chaos, entropy, evil, and water. His symbol is a set of 6 spiraling tentacles arrayed around a fanged mouth. Just a reminder, if you've not already subscribed, feel free to do so, and be sure to hit that notification bell as I upload from the other side of the world sometime in your future. For access to all the scripts and 1 week advanced access to these videos, consider becoming a patron of the channel on Patreon for a minimum of just $1 a month. Join the community on our Discord server and come say hi. And if you want to pick up a new video game at a significant daily discount and help me out in the process, check out the daily deal on Chrono, link down below in the video description text. As always, thanks for listening. I'll be back with more for you very soon.